Okay, so the next book I wanted to talk about is As I Lay Dying by William Faulkner. Give me a second. If you know anything about the author, he is a controversial one. He typically gets flamed for his writing. I don't know why. I actually took a liking to it. In this book, he writes his chapters through the perspectives of different characters, sometimes through the perspective of the family, sometimes through the perspective of townspeople. And I'll go ahead and get into what the story's about. It's about this family who's dealing with their mother's death. The thing is, spoiler alert, by the way, the thing is that their mother wasn't really fond of their family. She actually hated them all. And as a last resort to cause pain onto all of them, she made them go through this journey on. And keep in mind, the book takes place in like the early 1900s, I think. And this was a poor family. They had to go through this journey to bury her. They had to go through this journey to bury her in her hometown. And that journey was gruesome, and she knew it. She knew it would be gruesome, and that's why she had her husband make that promise. Essentially, in the only chapter that she gets, she explains how life itself is a preparation for death, and how her life, how she felt sort of trapped into becoming a mother and living a life just with not so much freedom. And this is due to her father's influence on her. When she was younger, her father had told her that her only purpose in life was to become a mother and to raise a family. And so she felt trapped, right? And so that's where her hate stems from. She hated it. Hated her family, all of it. And the family, they have like maybe five kids, if I'm remembering correctly. The middle child, named Darrell, he's a great character. I loved his character. It's amazing. The end of the book for him is my favorite. I'll get into that in a bit, but the smallest child, his name is Vardaman. Something cool about him in this book, he has a whole chapter to himself, where the only line, there's only one line, and the line is, "My mother is a fish," and I really loved it. And the reason for it is because in this single line, you can see how him as a 6-year-old, I think, he deals with this sort of trauma of his mother dying. He doesn't quite understand the concept of life and death yet, and you can see that through that line, because earlier that day that his mom had died, he had caught this fish and he gutted it alive, and he's making these connections of how his mother had died and so had that fish that same day, and he's grasping it just barely. And I think the reason that it feels so comical, that line, the reason it feels comical and poetic at the same time is because of the influence that Darrell had on him. Because their relationship was much closer than any of the other siblings. Darrell was a more poetic and intelligent character, and he laid this foundation for Vardaman for his thinking. But anyway, I'll get into Darl right now. So, as I mentioned, he is intelligent, and he knew that his mom hated life. She hated his family. Halfway through their journey, they make a stop to this family's house, and they sort of sleep in their barn. And what Darl does in the middle of the night, he sets fire to the barn in hopes that the coffin that they had carried her in throughout the journey would also light on fire, just so that they wouldn't have to keep going. Because he knew how absurd the journey was, especially for a woman who didn't really care for the family. And he knew what the mother was doing when she had his father make that promise. And he just knew everything, but he didn't really say it out loud because he knew that some of the other family members just wouldn't get it. In the final chapter, in his final chapter, for a moment it seems like he's going insane, like the family was right to have sent him to that asylum, but really it was him laughing at the absurdity of his own family for having completed that journey, for having just accepted what their horrible mother had them do. And the fact that nobody else could see it but him, he was laughing at that. But yeah, because in that chapter, in no way did Faulkner make it seem that he was going insane, besides the fact that, besides the other viewpoints of the family members. But in his final chapter, it seemed like he was sane. Just really laughing at the stupidity. And I'm excited to read his next book. It's called The Sound and the Fury. I don't think it'd be as good as this book. It has the same cover, just different. But I'm really excited. I actually love this book. I'd probably give it a 9 out of 10. It's a short read too. You can finish it in like 1 or 2 days.